Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the Legacy Tour Huntsville, brought to you by MTG Training Grounds. I am Zachary Cuck, your host, and I am joined once again by my co-host, Lane Fox.
Still here.
We have made it through 6 rounds of Swiss, and only 8 remain. It's been a tournament.
It has.
And for the viewers, I just want to note before we get too deep into this round, Andrew Mays and Jordan O'Hara last round did not draw. Andrew Mays was kind enough to concede to Jordan, and he made the top 8. Jordan made the top 8 then on tiebreakers. So he is another one of our matches. We may have him featured yet again. But for now, we are featuring Jeremy Masiolek playing Merfolk against Andrew Wright on Red-White Painterstone.
Yep, and Merfolk's got a great start.
Yeah, the Aether Vials where you always want to start.
Yeah, so it looks like he Lotus Petaled and what land is that?
That's a mountain.
Is that a mountain?
Yep, that's I'm not sure which mountain that is. It's one of the like promotional type things. It could be what were those? The APAC lands or something like that. I actually don't know some of the older exclusive basics. And
there's the top.
Yeah, now Andrew, I believe, was the 1 seed going into the finals, or maybe the two seed, something like that. But he is definitely the higher seed and chose to be on the play for this matchup, which is obviously not ideal for the Merfolk deck. They would like to get their Aether Vials out in front of you and be able to wasteland and do things like that. But
well, good news for Jeremy, at least. Normally you don't like seeing not a lot of islands on the other side of the table for your island walk guys, but it's not like Andrew's got a lot of blockers, really. So,
no, I think in general, Painterstone is not interested in using its creatures to block much because, because
the combo.
Oh, now there's a spicy one that'll put a crimp in Andrew Wright's game plan.
That's a Chalice on 1.
Yes, a Chalice on 1 really hinders Andrew's ability to play Grindstone, which is part of the combo win here.
Yeah.
You can sometimes work around it if you resolve an early Goblin Welder.
Yes.
Because you can even with your Grindstone being countered, you can then weld it back into play, as they say, and that would be a way around the Chalice. But since he has neither of those cards, he's going to have to deal with the Chalice first if he wants to use the combo kill. Alternately, you can always go the super slow route of casting Imperial Recruiters and Simian Spirit Guides and whatever other ridiculous creatures they play, and just try to
beat them up,
beat them down the old-fashioned way. Yeah.
Yeah, and the good news is he does have this Sensei's Divine top, so he can dig into solutions a little bit easier.
Yeah, sometimes these decks run like a main deck Manic Vandal and things like that, so he might actually even have an out main deck to this Chalice.
And that's actually what he's doing right now, is digging. I actually didn't play in this Legacy event, and I did notice a lot of Chalices about the room, even though I didn't get a chance to stick through all the event. I looked around and just saw a whole lot of Chalices. So,
well, the card is very powerful against a lot of Legacy. It's just sort of the format relies a lot on its 1 and sometimes 0 mana spells, and because Chalice can come down early and it's extremely effective against them, it's a strong card to consider when playing a Legacy deck.
Oh yeah. Well,
the only downside to it, in my opinion, is that it sort of cuts you off of playing any 1 mana spells as well. So whereas you can really stick it to the Brainstorms and the Ponders and so on, you don't actually get to play them yourself.
Yeah. Well, so yeah, there is that aspect, and then you also have you want to play a deck that, of course, you're not shutting yourself off with anything with the Chalice on 1, and
in this case, Cavern of Souls is going to effectively fight through your own Chalice if you have to, like if you want to cast Curse Catcher or something like that.
And if you're not playing Aether Vial turn 1, it's not as optimal anyway. So
sure.
All right, so
we have a Painter Servant, I assume naming blue. They almost always name blue because the Painter decks run main deck Pyroblasts. Although a main deck Pyroblast is fairly ineffective right now because Chalice of the Void. But here we have
there
Imperial
goes
Recruiter.
The Recruiter.
Yep. this can find, like I said, if Andrew is running a Manic Vandal, it could find that to deal with the Chalice. Sometimes they run some other odd one-ofs like Jaya Ballard or some other utility creatures like Viashino Heretic, things that deal with problematic permanents in their own special way.
Yeah. Now there's a card I would actually like to see reprinted. Is actually the Imperial Recruiter. I mean, there's a card that.
You're talking again about Eternal Masters.
Yeah.
Yes, I agree 100%. That card is ridiculously expensive considering what it is and the few number of decks it's played in. But
yeah, but I mean the decks. I mean, Imperial Recruiter is just like such a cool card. And the decks like this Painter deck is just so cool. But you see people probably being kind of priced out of playing the deck. So, I mean, I don't know if that will ever happen.
Yeah, those City Traders aren't cheap anymore either.
Oh no.
Actually, another card that could probably stand to see a reprint and would not hear any crying from me is the Painter Servant. Those have spiked incredible amount lately, and
to try to fight the Eldrazi menace.
Yeah, and I think that would be a fine card to reprint. Like you could possibly make a draft format where it's relevant, and even if you can't, it's just you just put it at rare and hope it's just a filler card that can help people's collections out some.
It's no worse than pulling a 1/0 for your rare.
Yes, I agree.
All right, well.
Now, the only reason they may not consider reprinting it is it's I believe it's banned in Commander, right?
I believe it is, yeah.
So there's a little bit of dyssynergy with the formats that the Eternal Masters is meant to promote. So
spinning the top.
Yeah, he got a free shuffle thanks to the Imperial Recruiter. So there should be some fresh cards up there to have a look at.
See what's coming down.
Yeah, these definitely are not the ideal decks to square off. Like each one of these is attempting to take advantage of some of the more common deck types, archetypes, and playstyles in Legacy. The Merfolk deck is hoping that Chalice on one and a swarm of aggressive creatures, backed up by a little bit of permission, can put most decks off of their game plan for a little while. And Painter Stone is attempting to use a combo kill combined with some control lock elements, things like Magus the Moon sometimes or Blood Moon, to take advantage of the greedy mana bases, and neither of them sort of match up very well, actually.
Yeah, I will say here that I feel like Jeremy's a little bit favored just having a more proactive deck.
Oh yeah, I mean being offensive helps. Now the Island Walk granted by all these lords, that's a lot of damage. The Island Walk is mostly irrelevant because Andrew will. Well, it is entirely irrelevant. I take it back because Andrew has no islands, and unless Jeremy's going to give him some with something like a Seas Claim or a then Spreading Seas, then I think that won't really matter. But if he doesn't, then I guess attacking for 30 or whatever that is also an acceptable solution.
Yeah, whole bunch, a lot of damage.
So the Jaya Ballard here would be really powerful, given that it can effectively pyroblast every turn, or in this case it could even Inferno, which would clean up all the board. But I think Andrew's life total is low enough such that he's not going to get a chance to use it. He's just on chump block duty and probably cross your fingers and pray for a Ensnaring Bridge. Because outside of that, I think Andrew is in a lot of trouble right now. He falls to just 2 life, so his fetch lands would still be alive, but otherwise, and a wasteland taking care of Andrew's City of Traders is also problematic.
I don't know if I would have played out the.
Yeah, it's sort of the True Name Nemesis. It does kind of give away a little bit of what you got, right? Like
I mean, like since you've got
showing your hand.
Yeah, since you got lethal on the board, I'm like, if you can deal with this, I don't really think the True Name's gonna. But sometimes you just want to rub it in,
Sure, and I mean, who knows? Like there are legacy decks that play some really odd one-ofs, like in this case, a card like I don't know, Wildfire or something would be absolutely devastating for Jeremy. and True Name survives it. So there you go. There's the one-off example of something that he could be effectively playing around by casting True Name Nemesis.
That's true.
I don't think Pyroclasm. No, Pyroclasm wouldn't clean up the board here, but
yeah, because I'm trying to remember. It does 4 damage to everything, doesn't it, on the wildfire?
Yeah, and you have to sacrifice all your lands, or 4 lands, which in Legacy is usually all of them.
Yeah.
I mean, it would be terrible for Andrew as well, but he would not die, at least. No, I'm not suggesting that Wildfire is something played. It is simply
you can next level them,
Yeah.
Because you saw this happening.
Yeah, I guess it's possible that Andrew could have generated enough blockers in a turn. I can't see how though without making a bunch of tokens or something. No, I think it was Ensnaring Bridge or bust, most likely.
Yep.
And it looks to me like
it's bust.
Bust, yeah. Since we are exiling Simian Spirit Guides for free draws. Well, I guess he still had an out there because we know he has a City of Trader. Or no, he played a land. Never mind. He would not have been able to use that. Yeah, that game was just over. So Jeremy takes the game and has the lead 1-0 at this point. So while you're watching the Legacy Tour Huntsville, let's take a second to talk about another tournament series that you might be interested in. Memphis Plays Legacy. This time it's a Grand Prix. The last iteration of this tournament was a Super IQ, a Star City Games Super Invitational qualifier. But now they're Memphis Plays Legacy. The comic seller is the name of the store. They are hosting a Grand Prix trial. They have nicknamed it Grand Prix Trial by Fire, and this is a Grand Prix trial for Grand Prix Columbus, the Legacy Grand Prix, later this summer. So if you're interested, check them out on Facebook at Memphis Plays Legacy.
All right.
On to the sideboards. So Lane, I'll let you start off with Andrew's sideboard here. What does he have? What do you think he should bring in?
Let's see. Oh, where's he at? Yeah. Let's see. Probably. Well, the Aethersworn Canaanist isn't going to do a lot of good. Neither is the Thorn. Containment Priest. I don't really think so.
It fights Aether Vial.
Aether Vial. The Vishnu Heretic. We see an Ensnaring Bridge. I think you bring that on in.
Yeah, Ensnaring Bridge is good for sure.
And I think you probably bring in the Koth as well, since you're probably going to be on the Ensnaring Bridge game.
Well, that certainly gives you an alternative victory behind the bridge. Although I don't feel like Merfolk can interact very well with the combo kill, the Grindstone combo.
That's a good point,
so you're not as dependent on finding a backup win. I think Koth of the Hammer is probably more of a concession to like Miracles.
Yeah,
where Planeswalkers are incredibly effective.
Yeah, I imagine Sudden Shock is for decks like Infect and everything like that, where they're a lot better.
Although it would still be solid here, especially if drawn early.
Yeah, I mean, if they start just throwing up multiple Lord... Well, no, Sudden Shock, because they can't flash in a Lord to protect it. So maybe Sudden Shock comes in.
The Heretic, I think, is good as well. Vashino Heretic, because it destroys artifacts. So that we saw in the last game that Chalice of the Void could have been problematic for Andrew, and that would be one way for him to play around. Actually, Vexing Shusher would do the same thing.
I was about to say, I couldn't remember exactly what Vexing Shusher did. I remember he had a split mana cost on green and red.
It's a red-green hybrid creature, and I believe you can make your spells uncounterable with it. It has a red-green activated ability that makes spells on the next... It's either a targeted ability or the next spell you cast. I don't remember, but in any event, it makes spells uncounterable, which would help with the problem with the Chalice.
That's a good point.
From Jeremy's sideboard, we have 2 Back to Basics, which I think are pretty bad against the all-mountain deck. Dismember, which against a deck that relies on a creature for a combo, you could certainly make the argument to bring it in. He probably has other dead cards to come out anyway. Things like Force of Will or Daze are probably pretty weak here, so that would be good. Echoing Truth, the same logic. It interrupts the combo. It also deals with Ensnaring Bridge, which could be a big problem. Now, he didn't see it game 1, but I would certainly think if Jeremy's on the up and up that he should suspect that. Pithing Needle definitely deals with the combo kill. Like you can name Grindstone and pretty much shut that off. You can also name something like Jaya Ballard if you're dying to her activated abilities and you need to get back into the game. Relic, a Progenitus is probably not good for this matchup. Spreading Seas is also kind of weak. I think that's better against decks like Jund, where you're trying to really mess with their mana base. Umezawa's Jite is fine. This is a creature combo deck after all. Like, it relies on Painter Servant, so Jite will help solve that problem. And Vendilion Click is traditionally good against combo decks, so I could definitely see bringing it in. I think it would be definitely an upgrade over True Name Nemesis, which is sort of just a slow beater that doesn't, against a deck that doesn't block much anyway. I don't think True Name is super effective.
Yeah.
So those cards and he's got some things you definitely want to get rid of, like we said, the True Name Nemesis and maybe some number of counter spells like the Force of Wills. So.
Yeah, I think you could even shave a land in this case, like the Cavern.
Sure. So it looks like Andrew is off to a much better start this game with both his Grindstone and a Goblin Welder to help enforce or protect his combo. Although Jeremy has different plans for that combo. See, this is the big downside to Grindstone, or to trying to play counter spells as your solution cards when Goblin Welder is involved, because
and just get it right back.
Yeah, he just gets as long as you've got some spare artifacts like Great Furnace or Lotus Petals or even Sensei's Divining Top, you can pretty easily mitigate the disruption. I'm a little surprised to still see Curse Catcher in the deck. I guess you don't have any other one mana threats, so you don't want to just cut them all and be slow yourself down too much. But Curse Catcher is really ineffective against a deck that has barely any instants and sorceries.
Yeah,
it's just sort of a slow beater.
And I want to say Jeremy's probably familiar with the deck. He knew to make sure that the I don't know. I mean, like he did recognize the combo piece at least. I mean, but
yeah, I mean, Painter Stone is not super common, but that combo's been around long enough that it's well known at this point. I think Jeremy is aware of what's going on.
Yeah, I think Ali played it.
Ali Antrazi? Yeah. He played at the Players Championship for Star City Games. He did, yeah.
Yeah, he was playing like Blood Moon and things like that. So.
Yeah, now Blood Moon is the kind of card that you would not want to have in this matchup if you're Andrew Wright. The almost all basic island deck really doesn't suffer much under the moon.
Oh yeah, that was definitely a meta call.
Jeremy's anemic beats here are not helping though. He could really use some more creatures, and it looks like he has just another Aether Vial in hand.
Yeah, I was surprised to see Spreading Seas here.
I guess, excuse me. He thinks maybe he can interfere enough, or I guess it does render Andrew's blockers somewhat ineffective, because now that Andrew has an island, any Lord will will turn on the unblockable. But I think Jeremy needs more creatures sooner than later, because this just isn't enough damage.
I was also surprised to see the seas on the mountain. What do you think he was thinking there?
Cut him off a color. I believe Jeremy has Wastelands, so he can deal with a non-basic.
Okay, so he can take care of the plateau. So,
right.
Okay.
But the mountain he cannot. So if you want to take them off of a color entirely, you have to go for the basics. Now there's those sudden shocks. Which once again, Jeremy's anemic beats are hampered by the removal. So there's just not a lot of pressure on Andrew right now, and he has a ton of mana. Although we should have a trigger here for City of Traders. Looks like Jeremy noticed it.
And there it goes.
Yeah, I believe Andrew floated 2 mana in response. He has a lot of mana available this turn if he has something to do. Nice to cast a Wormcoil Engine.
Well, I don't know. Did he tap it in response to playing it though?
Well, I saw him tap it before putting it in the graveyard.
Oh, okay.
Wait.
There's the Ensnaring Bridge.
Yeah, and that's bad for Jeremy, given that his hand is simply another ensnare. Is a pair of 1-drops he can't cast into the Chalice. Now, Andrew does have to work on emptying his hand before this bridge will be entirely effective. But that's not impossible to do by any means. So there, pre-combat is an Enlightened Tutor shrinking Andrew's hand size, even though it won't resolve through the Chalice of the Void.
So, Ensnaring Bridge, pretty good card.
Yeah, it does a lot of work in matchups like this where you have to defend yourself from an onslaught of creatures. Now,
Yeah.
looks like Jeremy
Which is most
drew.
decks.
Yeah, or at least some of them. So Jeremy has yet another Silver Gill Adept, which may help him draw into a solution to this Ensnaring Bridge. But there is a Pyroblast from Andrew, targeting a creature, but being countered yet again by the Chalice of the Void. I think he realizes these things are going to happen.
So
And here's a Dismember taking out the Goblin Welder. So
seems like a good play.
Yeah, it provides a little bit of insurance against Andrew reanimating his combo, if you will. Although with enough time, there are workarounds even to that. So there's a Grindstone. Once again, Chalice of the Void. Although I think, again, Andrew knows these things are going to happen. He's just playing his cards to keep his hand size small enough that the Silver Gill Adepts cannot attack.
Yeah.
All he needs to do is find, I assume, another piece of his combo. Oh, and there's a Painter Servant. So this will resolve, or could resolve here. I don't think Jeremy has any counter spells remaining. Excuse me.
So I'm wondering what's in Andrew's hand. And I want to say it's probably a Koth or a Jaya Ballard with 2 red.
It's either something that's double red or something that that somehow he doesn't have a target for. I can't imagine that that could be the case. But so Jeremy can no longer attack because Andrew now has a blocker.
Oh, I almost don't like that.
Well, at this stage, it's still possible for him to attack because Andrew had 2 cards in hand. But excuse me.
Let's see what's going on here.
So Andrew is attempting to destroy Chalice of the Void with a 1-mana spell because it is now a blue card thanks to Painter Servant. Although Jeremy is having none of it, remembering his trigger and countering all the 1-mana spells. And yet again, one of these days, maybe Andrew will find something that can get him through that Chalice. Something uncounterable or I don't know what. Oh, there you go.
Let's see. What do you name here? I think Wasteland. Oh no, you can't name lands.
Aether Vial? I can't think of any other activated abilities that Jeremy. Oh, I guess Umazaz Jite would be a although I think as long as Andrew can keep his hand empty, he doesn't have to worry about a Jite either. Now everything can be 2 colors. Or perhaps it's just even more blue. More bluish.
Yeah, in case he somehow gets rid of one of the other painters.
He's seen 1 Dismember, so okay. This is the payoff card that I believe Andrew's been looking for. This will allow him to search his library presumably for an answer to the Chalice of the Void, something like a Manic Vandal or I don't know what other red creature that destroys an artifact he might. But the Vaishino Heretic would be another that could deal with it if he brought that in from his sideboard. Now he's a little hamstrung on red mana, but I don't think Jeremy has a lot of answers to the bridge outside of something like an Echoing Truth. So there's not much Andrew could do about that anyway. And there's the Manic Vandal to presumably next turn take care of the Chalice of the Void. A Jaya Ballard would also be good in this situation as it could deal... Or no, I take that back. Andrew doesn't have a 2nd red mana, so he couldn't cast it. Which is why he has to go for the Manic Vandal, I suppose. But here is the Vandal. Finally removing the Chalice of the Void from the board and freeing up all of the 1-mana spells. Lane, I know you've played Chalice of the Void decks.
Mm-hmm.
Are you a fan of the card? I kind of despise it myself.
I do like the card. And I think that just part of it is like, it seems like a fair version of like Mental Misstep. You know, everyone hated Mental Misstep because it pretty much butchered Legacy. But at least, like you said, you have to play a certain type of deck to really play it optimally. So I don't really feel like it's particularly unfair. And
No, I don't think it's unfair. I guess my issue is I don't really enjoy the games of Magic that result from it.
yeah,
Like the fact that it is a card that can see play is fine. It just the types of games that you typically see resulting from it are just oh, and there's Jai Ballard.
yeah.
Looks like he had a Simian Spirit Guide to caster.
Yeah, that was that other card then. I guess it was the 2 red. But yeah, I can see that as well. I mean, most good players can of course play around it, of course, you know.
Well, and I mean, yeah, it's not that it's unanswerable or that it can't be dealt with. It's just that it creates a lot of non-games. I'm not a huge fan of cards that sort of reduce the game to nothing more than one player playing and another player not.
Yeah. I mean, but to me, sometimes Wasteland games play out like that too.
Sure. The issue there, I think, is much more easily mitigated. However, like you can play more lands, for instance, or more, or you can cut down on your excessively greedy mana bases.
Yeah.
I feel like a lot of Delver of Secret decks play very few lands, and when they lose to a wasteland, it's sort of their own fault, if you will, where they got themselves into that position by their greedy mana base. But a thing like Chalice of the Void, Legacy as a format can't really exist in the absence of 1-mana spells, because the decks that play them versus the ones that don't just it's not a fair fight in most cases.
And I may be a little bit biased because I'm a fan. I like the new Eldrazi decks. I do like Tezzeret, and I think it's just it goes on to make those decks playable, that otherwise would not be able to.
Yeah, certainly. I mean, it just speaks for and there's a grindstone that that should be the game. But,
yeah.
Well, as you were saying, yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, I think that it kind of supports those decks and makes them tier 2, and so yeah, that should be, because to remind the viewers though what Grindstone does and what the combat is here.
So for those of you who don't know, the interaction here is that Grindstone mills the top 2 cards, or puts the top 2 cards of target player's library into their graveyard, and then if those cards share a color, like they would under a Painter's Servant naming a blue, for instance, then you continue the process, effectively milling their entire deck.
Yep.
So let's quickly talk about the Birmingham Championship Series. This is an event series being hosted in the Birmingham, Alabama area. It features 5 qualifying events, although there's the potential for a 6th now, covering all the formats, the constructed formats, Modern, Standard, and even Legacy potentially, and I believe 1 sealed event. Now, all of these culminate in it says 40-person event, although I think that may be increased to up to as many as 50 players this time around, with some pretty stellar prizes. So you can learn more about that out if you're interested on Facebook at Birmingham Champions Series, and see all the prizes and the events that go with it. It's a really great series, and I'm impressed that they've brought that to the Alabama area.
Yeah, may the odds be ever in your favor on sealed.
Yeah, so. I'm not a huge limited fan. I have had very, if you'll excuse the pun, I have had very limited success, or I guess I have not had very limited success.
Yeah.
I've had very limited unsuccess, and I
sit next to the guy that pulls like
the money pool with all the bomb rares. Yeah.
That's gonna go on and win the whole thing and make you more money.
Yes, and meanwhile I can look at all of my draft chaff.
Yeah. Get there with the grizzly bears.
Yes. No, I think the closest I've ever been to really successful with a limited deck was Grand Prix Atlanta, and even then I had to be vanquished in the last round to end my run.
Yeah. Well, I don't always do my research before the event as well as I could, because I try to think about, because there's a lot of combo tricks in draft, and I'm like, you've got that guy that was up, till 3 a.m. last night, and he knows exactly that there's a, Mighty Leap or something like that in this format, and when
an opponent reps a green and a colorless, that it's what tricks are available.
Yeah, so I mean, so sometimes it's my own fault because I only really play limited during the pre-releases and things like that.
Exactly the same. I look at the cards and think, boy, these would make some great constructed decks, like for Standard or something, and and that's about all I do.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm sorry to say that.
No, I'm the same. I'm more of a constructed player.
My prowess with 40 card decks is incredibly limited. I've always been more of a constructed player, and my results confirm it.
All right, so here we are, game 3.
Yeah, so I don't imagine the sideboarding changed much, and as quickly as these players readied for game 3, I think they agree. There's not a whole lot of sideboarding that needs that needs to change.
Unless Jeremy took out his Echoing Truth, he might bring that back in if he didn't think about the insane.
Boy, yeah, if you didn't think you needed it before, you need it now, and I imagine he would have had it in just because knowing how the combo finish of Painter decks works, you would like to have some sort of disruption in your tempo-esque deck.
No, do a lot of people play? I don't see people play Hercule's Recall a lot,
well, in Legacy, it's not near as effective as it is in something like Vintage or Modern, where where those cards have a much greater effect on the game.
Yeah, don't see Spell Guide a lot either.
Looks to me like Jeremy has a soft hand here. It may only have one land.
Ooh. But is it one land with an Aether Vial? No.
It's one land with a Curse Catcher.
But, well, we'll see if he gets there.
I did see Jeremy bottom the missing card, and he has his Echoing Truth in hand, so he has at least some amount of protection, assuming he can get a land.
Tap 2 mana to play a Lotus Petal. All right, so what do we got going on here? So we got
Just
the
top spin. This is a good start for Painter Stone.
And maybe he's playing around Days.
A lot of men. Yeah, some Merfolk decks in the past have played cards like Days. Although in this case, he wouldn't need the Lotus Petal to do that. The extra mana from.
Oh yeah, from the Curse Catchers.
From the Ancient Tomb would be enough to pay for a Days.
So I guess I'm trying to figure out.
Yeah, maybe sometimes you play with odd ordering of cards like that just to confuse opponents. You can get a little bit of an edge as you watch them consider what it is you could be doing. And
well, I was confused, so there we go.
Yeah,
I would have fallen for it. So
Andrew, you won. You got lane.
Yeah.
Now, it's noteworthy here. Jeremy missed his second land drop, which can be devastating in a match like this, where speed and pressure is everything.
Yeah. I guess he's maybe got a handful of lords, and he figures if he can draw just one more land.
I know I saw at least one a Lord of Atlantis and possibly a second.
There's our Vexing Shusher.
Sure. Now, if you can read that, you'll note what it does.
Yeah, it's been a while. That was in Shadowmoor? Was it Shadowmoor that we saw him?
Yeah, I think that's right. Yeah.
He was one of the goblin tribe.
I didn't play during Shadowmoor, so I'm not as familiar with a lot of those cards, but I know what that one does, or what it's primarily used for. It looks like Jeremy drew a Dismember. I wonder if he's willing to fire that off on the Shusher just to continue attacking with Curse Catchers.
Seems fine.
I don't see a whole lot of other options, and holding your Dismember to fight the combo just gives Andrew an infinite amount of time to get back or to get into this game and set up a perfect hand with that Sensei's Top.
I will say I like Jeremy's Island. I did like that island.
Oh, is that
the
RTR?
Ravnica?
Yeah.
Yeah, it had the or it was the one that had the, I forget what you call the domes that looks kind of like the Washington Monument.
Oh, sure.
In the background.
Do you have a favorite set for basic lands, Lane?
I liked the Mirrodin sort of jots of
metallic.
Yeah, the metallic lands. I thought those were really cool. I did like Time Spiral too.
My goodness, we have opposing tastes. If I had to pick two sets that I did not like the basic mana from, those would be the first two. That and actually Ravnica, ironically.
Yeah, I liked the lore ones too. They had the fantasy sort of fairy tale sort of streams for the islands and stuff. I thought that was kind of cool. I mean, but you may have hated that too. I don't know.
No, that was alright. I guess I'm a very old school land. I liked Mirage and Ice Age, some of the more traditional, just like basic land scenery. I also really like the snow depicted in a lot of the Ice Age lands.
Oh yeah.
I feel like the artwork was less it was like less distinct for the location and more of just a could be anywhere. Could be a landscape in any plane or any place. It's just something an artist would draw of just the landscape they saw.
That's cool. Yeah, I remember. What was it? I remember the snow-covered islands had had the little Easter Island heads on it.
Yeah, they were almost like Stonehenge or something. And or no, you're right, Easter Island. Yeah, the heads, and they were kind of unique in that regard too. Now the reprints from Cold Snap were different, but you're right. Excuse me. The original Ice Age ones, and I'm also a big fan of the old borders. So I try and make all of my basics feature from old sets.
Yeah. So maybe Jeremy took my advice and took out one of his Cavern of Souls, and he wants to like strangle me right now.
Yeah, at this point. Any land
would
would
love
be better.
That Cavern of Souls right now.
Wasteland would probably have some effect now that. Just as a mana source, you could maybe deploy some
Silver Gill, something like that.
I saw he had a chalice, although I don't know what good a chalice would do him in this situation. The grindstone already being on the table.
Yeah. So Jeremy may very well be defeated by his own deck.
Yeah, I mean it's a risk you take, right? Keeping a one land hand on the play, you're very unlikely to naturally draw into it on time.
So I think that might be it, though, because right there, that looks like the Painter Servant.
He has to cast it. Jeremy gets one more turn at least to find his land before he has to before he is completely out of this game.
I thought that he could do it off of the Ancient Tomb.
Well, he could cast it, but he can't activate the Grindstone then. The Grindstone costs 3 mana to activate.
Oh, yeah, that's a good point, yeah.
So Jeremy has at least one more turn, and it's possible Andrew could play around a Dismember here if he's worried about that.
And there is a Dismember, or there was one.
There was one.
Yeah,
he already used
it.
it.
Took care of it.
So there's the activation from Grindstone, putting Andrew all the way down to 8. He doesn't have a lot of spare life, but it probably won't matter given that his entire deck is a single color. If Jeremy cannot interact with this, the game will just end here, I believe. And on his draw step, Jeremy has to pack him in. Andrew Wright takes this match 2-1 and advances to the semifinals. Stick around and we will be right back.